The Last 911 Call Part 1. The first rule every 911 dispatcher learns is simple. Stay calm, no matter what you hear, no matter who is screaming, no matter how impossible the situation sounds. Your voice is supposed to become the one stable thing in somebody else's worst moment. For 12 years, Emily Carter followed that rule perfectly. She worked the overnight shift at the Franklin County Emergency Communications Center just outside Columbus, Ohio. She answered thousands of calls: car accidents, domestic disputes, heart attacks, house fires, suicides, children locked inside cars, people trapped in elevators. She had heard almost every kind of fear a human voice could produce, or at least, that was what she believed, until the phone call that officially never existed. Emily retired at 43, not because she wanted to, because she couldn't continue. People assumed stress had finally caught up with her. Some believed she suffered from burnout. Others whispered that one particular call had broken her. Nobody knew the truth. Emily never corrected them. She simply disappeared from public life. 6 years later, a former supervisor contacted her. The Emergency Communications Center was replacing its archive system. Thousands of old recordings had to be reviewed before permanent digital storage. Many recordings were damaged. Some had corrupted timestamps. Others contained legal evidence. Experienced dispatchers were being invited back as consultants. Emily almost refused. Then she heard the sentence that changed everything. "We found a recording with your operator ID, but nobody remembers it." 2 days later, Emily walked back into the same building she thought she had left forever. Almost nothing had changed. The fluorescent lights still hummed. The hallways still smelled faintly of old coffee and printer toner. The operations room looked smaller than she remembered. Rows of empty dispatch stations sat in silence. Only the archive department remained active. A young technician named Lucas introduced himself. "You'll only be reviewing old recordings," he explained. "Nothing live." Emily nodded. That sounded easy enough. Lucas led her into a temperature-controlled archive room. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Thousands of labeled hard drives filled metal racks. Everything looked organized. Everything looked ordinary. Lucas handed her a pair of headphones. "We couldn't identify this file." He pointed toward a monitor. "The operator ID belongs to you." Emily looked at the screen. Operator EC214, that was her ID. She still remembered it. Case number unavailable. Caller number unknown. Location unavailable. Timestamp corrupted. Length 11 minutes, 17 seconds. Emily frowned. Every emergency call generated metadata automatically. Missing information like this wasn't normal. She clicked play. Static. Then breathing. Heavy breathing. Not panic. Not fear. Just someone trying very hard to stay calm. Then she heard a voice. 911. "What's your emergency?" Emily froze. That was her voice. 6 years younger. Lucas looked confused. "Is that really you?" Emily slowly nodded. Every dispatcher recognizes their own radio voice. Slightly flatter, more controlled, more professional. It was unmistakably hers. The recording continued. "Ma'am, are you still with me?" Silence. Then, another voice answered. A woman's voice. Soft. Shaking. "I don't have much time." Emily felt something tighten in her chest. The voice sounded familiar. Not because she'd heard it before, because it sounded like herself. Slightly older, more tired. The younger Emily on the recording asked the standard questions. "What is your location?" The caller ignored her. Instead, she whispered, "If you're listening to this, you still have a chance." Emily removed one headphone. "What is this?" Lucas shrugged. "We hoped you could tell us." She put the headphone back on. The call continued. "You have the wrong number," the younger Emily said. "Tell me where you are." The caller answered, "You already know where I am." Long pause. "I'm sitting in your house." Emily's breathing stopped. The younger Emily laughed nervously. "This line is reserved for emergencies." "I know. I'm calling from 6 years in your future." The recording went silent, not disconnected, silent, just faint room noise. Emily stared at the waveform. Lucas slowly leaned closer. "Is this some kind of training exercise?" Emily whispered. "No," because she remembered something. Exactly 6 years earlier, during one overnight shift, she had experienced an unexplained system crash. Almost 12 minutes had vanished from every workstation. Engineers blamed software corruption. No recording had ever been recovered. Until now. Shh. Emily insisted on replaying the call from the beginning. This time she noticed something strange. The background noise behind the caller, a clock, ticking, very slowly. Tick, tick, tick. She recognized it instantly. Her grandfather's wall clock. It had hung inside her living room since childhood. Nobody outside her family could possibly know that sound. The younger Emily asked again, "Who are you?" The caller answered quietly, "I'm you." Lucas immediately paused the recording. "Okay," he said. "Someone definitely made this." Emily didn't respond because the caller had said one sentence that nobody else in the world could understand. The grandfather clock. That sound had stopped working almost 7 years earlier, yet on the recording, it was ticking perfectly. Emily stood up. "I need some air." Lucas watched her leave. She walked outside. Cold November wind hit her face. She tried convincing herself this was an elaborate prank. Somebody had cloned her voice, generated fake audio, created false metadata. It had to be fake. It had to be. Then her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered automatically. No one spoke, only breathing. Then, very quietly, a familiar voice whispered, "Don't finish the recording." The line disconnected. Emily looked at the phone screen. No call history, no unknown number, nothing. As if the call had never happened, she slowly raised her eyes toward the archive building. Through the second-floor window, she could see Lucas waving for her to come back inside. He had found something. Emily had no idea that walking back into that building would become the biggest mistake of her life. The last 911 call, Part 2. Emily stood frozen outside the archive building. Her heartbeat hadn't slowed. The cold air helped, but not enough. She looked at her phone again. No missed call, no unknown number, nothing. It was as if the last 30 seconds had never happened. She took one long breath, then walked back inside. Lucas was waiting near the archive workstation. His expression had changed. "You need to see this." Emily sat down. Lucas opened another window on the monitor. "I checked the system logs while you were outside." He pointed toward the screen. The recording wasn't copied from any backup. Emily frowned. "What does that mean?" Lucas swallowed. "It means this file appeared inside the archive server 43 minutes ago." Emily looked at him. "That's impossible." "I know. The archive server isn't connected to the internet. No remote access. No cloud sync. No outside devices. So either someone physically placed it there," Lucas paused, "or I don't understand what I'm looking at. Emily looked back at the screen. The file creation time was today's date. Today's time. 43 minutes earlier. The same moment Lucas had opened the archive cabinet, she whispered, "Play the recording again." Lucas nodded. The audio resumed exactly where it had stopped. The younger Emily spoke first. "Ma'am, I need you to tell me where you are." The older voice answered calmly. "You won't believe me yet. That's okay. You don't have to. You only need to remember 3 things. Silence. Don't go into archive room B alone." Emily instinctively looked toward the hallway. Archive room B. That was exactly where they were sitting. Lucas noticed her reaction. "You okay?" She didn't answer. The recording continued. The second thing. When you hear someone knocking, don't answer. The younger Emily sounded irritated now. "If this is some kind of joke," the older voice interrupted. "It isn't. You only have one chance to change this." Emily's hands had become cold. Lucas leaned closer. "She sounds exactly like you." Emily whispered, "I know." Then the recording changed, for the first time. There was another sound, very faint. Metal scraping across concrete, slow, heavy, as if someone was dragging something down a hallway. Emily turned toward the archive room door. Lucas did the same. Nothing. Only silence. They looked back at the screen. The sound continued inside the recording. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. Pause. Then the caller whispered, "He's closer now." The younger Emily asked, "Who's closer?" No answer. Only breathing. The scraping stopped. Then 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 Emily and Lucas looked at each other because at that exact moment, 3 knocks echoed through the real archive room door. Knock. 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 Neither of them moved. Lucas stood slowly. "Maintenance." Emily grabbed his wrist. "No." He looked confused. "It's probably don't." Her voice was sharper than she intended. The knocking didn't return. After nearly 30 seconds, Lucas carefully opened the door. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no voices, no employees, nothing. He walked a few feet down the corridor. Still nothing. Emily stayed inside. Something felt wrong. Not frightening. Wrong. As Lucas disappeared around the corner, Emily looked back at the monitor. The recording was still playing. The younger Emily had gone silent. Then, the older voice whispered something so quietly that Emily almost missed it. "He's watching through the glass." Emily slowly raised her eyes. The archive room had one narrow observation window beside the door. Dark, reflective, empty. At least, that's what she thought, until she noticed a shape. Someone was standing in the hallway, completely still, only visible because the hallway lights reflected off the glass. Emily blinked. The figure disappeared. Lucas returned a few seconds later. "No one's here." Emily didn't mention what she'd seen. She wasn't even sure she had seen anything. Lucas rewound the recording 10 seconds. This time, they listened carefully. Again. The older Emily whispered, "He's watching through the glass." Then, another sound. A door opening. Footsteps. The younger Emily asked, "Whoa, what was that?" The caller answered, "He's inside now." Emily paused the recording. She looked toward the archive room entrance. The door was closed, locked. Lucas checked it anyway. Still locked. He laughed nervously. "This place is getting in our heads." Emily wanted to agree. Instead, she asked, "Can you tell me where this recording was physically stored?" Lucas opened another database window. That's the strange part. He zoomed into the inventory log. There is no storage location. What? It doesn't belong to any drive. Emily stared. Every archived recording existed on at least 2 physical backups. This one didn't. It existed only as a digital file, without an original source, without hardware, without history, without explanation. Lucas suddenly froze. He was staring at another section of the screen. What? He pointed silently. A progress bar appeared. The recording length had changed. Earlier, it was 11 minutes and 17 seconds. Now, the software displayed 11:18, 11:19, 11:20. Emily felt every hair on her arms rise. The recording wasn't finished. It was getting longer, 1 second at a time, as if someone was still speaking. Neither of them said a word. The timer continued. 11:24, 11:25, 11:26. Lucas whispered, "That's not possible." Emily could only stare. Then the speakers crackled again. No one had pressed play. The recording resumed by itself. The older Emily sounded exhausted. "If you're hearing this, then I wasn't fast enough." A long pause. "I'm sorry." Static filled the room. Then one final sentence, spoken with absolute certainty. "He's behind Lucas." Emily reacted instantly. She grabbed Lucas by the shoulder and pulled him away from the desk. Both of them spun around. Nothing. Empty room. Silent shelves. Boxes. Hard drives. No one there. Lucas stared at her. "What are we doing?" Emily didn't answer because something else had caught her attention. The observation window. This time, there was no reflection. Only darkness, as if someone was standing directly against the glass, blocking the hallway lights. The archive room lights flickered once, then twice. Then, every computer monitor inside the room shut off at exactly the same time. Complete silence. The emergency backup lights came on. Dim. Cold. Blue. Lucas reached for his flashlight. Emily slowly looked toward the observation window one last time. The darkness was gone, but on the glass, someone had written 3 words from the outside using a finger. "Don't go home." The last 911 call, part 3. Emily didn't move. Neither did Lucas. The words on the glass, "Don't go home," were gone. Not fading. Gone. As if they had never been there. Lucas aimed his flashlight at the window. "Did you see that too?" Emily nodded. For the first time since returning to the archive, she realized she was no longer questioning whether something impossible was happening. She was only trying to understand what it wanted. Power returned 30 seconds later. Every monitor rebooted automatically. Every archive file came back online, except one. The recording had disappeared. Lucas searched every folder. Nothing. He checked the server log. Nothing. He checked the recovery cache. Nothing. It was as though the file had erased itself. Emily leaned back in her chair. "No." Lucas frowned. "What?" "It wanted us to hear only that much." The next morning, Emily didn't go home. She drove instead to a small diner she used to visit after night shifts. The waitress recognized her immediately. "Emily." "It's been years." Emily forced a smile. "You still work nights?" The waitress laughed. "Some people never leave." Emily ordered coffee. Black. No sugar. As she waited, she opened her old notebook. Every dispatcher kept one. Officially, they weren't supposed to. But after thousands of emergency calls, certain cases stayed with you. Writing them down helped. She turned page after page until she found an entry dated October 14th, 6 years earlier, 3 days before the mysterious system failure. Only one sentence had been written. Caller kept saying, 11 minutes. Emily frowned. She couldn't remember writing it. She couldn't even remember the call. Yet, the handwriting was undeniably hers. That afternoon, she visited the retired systems engineer who had investigated the archive crash years ago. His name was Harold Benson, 72 years old. He answered the door with obvious surprise. "I haven't seen anyone from dispatch in years." Emily didn't waste time. "I need to ask about the archive failure." Harold's smile disappeared. "I knew someone would eventually come." He invited her inside. Stacks of computer manuals filled the living room. Old circuit boards, magnetic tapes, boxes labeled with dates. Harold poured 2 cups of tea, then quietly asked, "Did the recording come back?" Emily felt her stomach tighten. "You know about it?" Harold looked toward the window before answering. "I knew it would." Emily stared. "You've heard it?" He nodded once. "Only the first 4 minutes." Emily's pulse quickened. "What happened?" Harold slowly opened an old metal filing cabinet. Inside was a yellow folder. Across the front, someone had written in red marker, "Project Echo." Emily looked confused. "I've never heard of that." "You weren't supposed to." Harold placed the folder on the table. "It wasn't a government conspiracy. It wasn't classified. It was simply..." He hesitated. "A mistake." Emily opened the folder. Inside were technical diagrams, emergency communication schematics, server maps, time synchronization reports. Then one document caught her eye. Internal incident reports, subject, unexplained recursive audio event. Date, October 17th, 6 years earlier. Exactly the day the archive crash occurred. Emily looked up. "What is a recursive audio event?" Harold took a long breath. "We don't know. But we know how it started." He pointed toward an equipment diagram. When the county upgraded the emergency communication servers, someone connected 2 independent recording systems together. They weren't supposed to communicate. Emily frowned. So, for exactly 11 minutes, both systems began recording each other. Emily blinked. "I don't understand." Harold looked directly into her eyes. "Neither did we, until voices started appearing. Before they were spoken." Silence filled the room. Harold continued. "We thought it was corrupted timestamps. Then dispatchers began reporting something stranger." Emily whispered, "What?" "They were receiving emergency calls from events that hadn't happened yet." Emily felt her breathing become shallow. Harold wasn't finished. "The first prediction was a house fire. The dispatcher thought someone was playing a prank. 3 hours later, the fire happened." Emily's fingers tightened around the folder. "The second call predicted a highway accident. It happened. The third predicted an officer-involved shooting. It happened." Emily looked at him in disbelief. "And then..." Harold's expression darkened. "Then the calls stopped predicting disasters and started predicting people." "What do you mean?" "They knew dispatchers' names, their families, their routines." Emily suddenly remembered the whisper from the recording. "Don't go home." Harold noticed the fear on her face. "It contacted you, didn't it?" Emily didn't answer. He nodded anyway. "It always chooses one. One dispatcher, one listener." Emily stood up. "What is it?" Harold slowly closed the folder. "I've spent 6 years trying to answer that. I still don't know. But I know one thing. It doesn't begin with a phone call. It begins when you answer." Emily's phone vibrated. Unknown number. Again. She looked at Harold. He looked terrified. "Don't answer." The phone continued vibrating. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then it stopped. A voicemail notification appeared. No missed call. Only a voicemail. Timestamp: 3 minutes from the future. Emily looked at Harold. Neither of them spoke. With trembling hands, she pressed play. The last 911 call, Part 4. Emily held her breath. The voicemail timer read 00:43:43 seconds. She pressed play. Static filled the speaker, not the sharp.
The last 911 call. Part 5. Emily didn't drive home. Instead, she drove back to the communications center. The building was almost empty. Only a single patrol unit sat outside. The night supervisor looked surprised. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "I need access to the old dispatch floor." He hesitated. "That section has been closed for years." "I know. I still need to see it." 20 minutes later, Emily stood inside the abandoned operations room. Dust covered every workstation. Old CRT monitors sat exactly where they had been left. Coffee mugs. Training manuals. Headsets. Time had simply stopped. Lucas arrived a few minutes later carrying a portable power unit. "You really think the answers are here?" Emily looked across the room. "No. I think whoever wants me here expects me to find something." Lucas connected power to one of the old dispatch terminals. The ancient monitor flickered. A blue login screen appeared. Emily typed her old operator ID. EC214. To her surprise, the system accepted it. No password. No warning. Just access granted. Lucas frowned. That account should have been deleted years ago. Emily ignored him. The desktop contained only one folder. Its name was simply Operator 8. Lucas looked confused. "You never created that folder?" Emily slowly shook her head. She opened it. Inside were 7 audio recordings, each one named after an operator. Operator 1. Operator 2. Operator 3. Operator 7. And one empty file. Operator 8. Creation date: tomorrow. Emily felt her stomach tighten. Lucas whispered, "It already created your file." Emily clicked Operator 1. The audio began immediately. A frightened male dispatcher spoke into the recorder. "If anyone ever hears this, don't answer the second call." The recording ended. Only 9 seconds. Operator 2. A woman. Crying. "He doesn't need your location. He already knows it." End. Operator 3. Static. Then one sentence. "He isn't inside the phone." Operator 4. Destroying the recordings doesn't matter. Operator 5. "He only exists after you hear him." Operator 6. Silence. 30 seconds of silence. Then footsteps. Running. A scream. Recording ended. Operator 7. Daniel Brooks. The dispatcher Harold had mentioned. His breathing was uneven. "I finally understand." Long pause. "We all thought the voice was hunting us." Another pause. "It isn't. It keeps warning us." Emily leaned closer. Lucas stopped breathing. Daniel continued. "The thing hunting us never speaks." The recording ended. The room fell completely silent. Emily slowly looked toward Lucas. Then she whispered, "Who have we been listening to?" Neither of them answered. Because at that exact moment, Every abandoned dispatch monitor turned on. One after another. Without electricity. Without cables. Without explanation. Dozens of screens filled the room with pale blue light. Every monitor displayed the same thing. An incoming emergency call. Call waiting. Lucas stepped backward. This isn't possible. Emily stared at the center monitor. The caller ID contained only one word. Emily. The phone on the old dispatch desk began ringing. Once. Twice. 3 times. Emily remembered Harold's warning. It begins when you answer. The ringing continued. Lucas whispered. Don't. Emily nodded. I'm not going to. The ringing stopped. Relief flooded the room. Then. Every monitor changed at exactly the same time. Instead of the incoming call, they now showed live security camera footage. Camera 01. The front entrance. Empty. Camera 02. Parking lot. Empty. Camera 03. Hallway. Empty. Camera 04. Archive room B. Empty. Camera 05. Old dispatch floor. Emily froze. Camera 05 was showing the very room they were standing in. But something was wrong. The camera image wasn't live. On the screen, Emily and Lucas were both standing perfectly still. Neither of them was moving. Yet in reality, Lucas slowly stepped backward. On the monitor, he didn't move. Emily slowly raised her hand. The woman on the screen kept both arms at her sides. Lucas whispered. That's not us. Then, the Emily on the monitor smiled. Very slowly. She reached toward the ringing telephone. The one standing in front of the screen. Not the one in the room. She answered it. Every speaker inside the abandoned dispatch center exploded with static. Then, Emily heard her own voice. Not the younger dispatcher. Not the older warning voice. A third version. Calm. Emotionless. Almost empty. I finally found you. The monitors instantly went black. The room returned to silence. Lucas looked at Emily. His face had gone pale. He asked the question Emily had been trying to avoid since this nightmare began. If that wasn't you, then who just answered the phone? The last 911 call. Final part. No one spoke. The silence inside the abandoned dispatch room felt heavier than any scream Emily had ever heard. Lucas slowly stepped away from the desk. I think we should leave. Emily nodded. For the first time since returning to the communications center, she agreed. Neither of them had any interest in finding more answers. They simply wanted to get out. Lucas reached the exit first. He grabbed the handle. Pulled. Nothing. He pulled harder. The door didn't move. It's locked. Emily frowned. That door doesn't lock from the inside. Lucas tried again. Still nothing. Then, every monitor in the room flickered back to life. Not all at once. One. Then another. Then another. Until dozens of cold blue screens illuminated the darkness. Every screen showed the same thing. A live security camera. The building's main entrance. A lone figure was standing outside. Perfectly still. The figure wasn't trying to come in. It wasn't moving. It was simply waiting. Lucas zoomed the camera. The image sharpened. The person wore dark clothes. Hands in pockets. Face lowered. Emily's heartbeat slowed. Not because she felt safe. Because she recognized the jacket. It was hers. The jacket she had worn 6 years earlier. The jacket she had retired in. Lucas whispered. "Emily." She couldn't answer. The woman outside slowly lifted her head. It was Emily. 6 years younger. She looked directly into the camera. Then raised one finger, pointing toward the building. Not at the entrance. At the dispatch room. At them. The screen filled with static. Every monitor shut off. The emergency phone on the old desk rang again. One single ring. Emily closed her eyes. No. Another ring. Lucas looked at her. What if answering is the only way out? Emily remembered every recording. Every dispatcher. Every warning. Every disappearance. None of them had escaped by running. Slowly. She walked toward the desk. Lucas tried to stop her. "Emily." She gently removed his hand. "If I don't answer, someone else will." She picked up the receiver. Silence. No static. No breathing. Nothing. Then. A familiar voice. The older Emily. The one who had warned her from the beginning. "You finally understand." Emily whispered. "Who are you?" A soft laugh answered. "I'm the only version of you that survived." Emily felt tears forming. "What is this?" "It's not haunting. It's memory." "What do you mean?" "The archive doesn't store recordings. It stores choices." Emily couldn't understand. The older Emily continued. Every dispatcher who answered the impossible call left a version of themselves behind. They thought they were recording voices. They were recording decisions. Emily looked around the empty room. So the people who disappeared. They never disappeared. They became echoes. They remained where they made their final choice. Emily slowly lowered her head. "And me?" Long silence. Then the answer. "You still have one decision left." Emily's voice trembled. "What happens if I hang up?" "You forget tonight. You leave. You live. And if I stay on the line? You remember everything. You stop him from reaching the next dispatcher." Emily asked the question that had haunted her since the first recording. "Who is he?" For several seconds. The older Emily said nothing. Then quietly replied. "I never learned his name. I only learned what he wants." "What?" "A listener. Nothing more. The moment someone truly understands the signal, he no longer needs the phone." Emily closed her eyes. Then she smiled. A tired, peaceful smile. "I understand." She gently placed the receiver back onto the cradle. Nothing happened. No lights. No screams. No shadow. The dispatch room remained silent. Lucas stared at her. "That's it?" Emily nodded. "I think so." They walked toward the exit. This time, the door opened effortlessly. Outside, the first rays of sunrise touched the parking lot. The building looked ordinary again. Lucas laughed nervously. "I don't think anyone will believe this." Emily smiled. "They shouldn't." A week later, the archive department officially reported that the mysterious recording had never existed. No corrupted file. No missing metadata. No unexplained audio. Project Echo. Deleted. Archive Room B. Empty. Harold Benson, according to public records, had passed away 3 years earlier. Emily never returned to the communications center. She never spoke publicly about that night. She never tried to investigate it again. Life slowly returned to normal. At least, That's what she wanted to believe. Almost 1 year later. Emily was making coffee when her cell phone vibrated. Unknown number. She stared at the screen for several seconds. This time, she didn't answer. The phone stopped ringing. A voicemail appeared. Timestamp. Tomorrow. Emily smiled sadly. Without opening the message, she deleted it. Some stories end because the mystery is solved. Others end because someone finally chooses not to listen. Case status: unresolved. File closed.